Everybody, welcome back to Cinema Trip Reviews. I am Wyatt. This is Alex, and this week we are talking about the finale of The Last of Us. If you're new to the channel, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Go check us out on pretty much every podcasting platform. We're out there, and make sure to tell your friends, tell their friends, and tell their friends. You know how it is. We're going to talk about the last episode, and of course, kind of go into a little bit of conversation about part two. I mean, we did that a little bit last week, but we can really kind of dive into it this week a little bit. Overall, what were your thoughts on the finale here, Alex?
Quick, brutal, and effective. It was
certainly quick.
It felt so compact.
That's what I said. Yeah.
And I feel like it could have went a little longer, but on the flip side of the coin, on the same side of the coin, I guess, I kind of like it, man. I kind of like just like the quickness of it, like the boomness of it.
Yeah, we talked about last week how we wanted the episode to be like an hour or like an hour and a half long. We thought it would be. I still think it was a little too short. It was like 45 minutes. I think it should have been at least an hour or 55 minutes or something. It did feel very compact and very tight. I mean, just like it felt a little bit more tighter than episode 8. I mean, I'd said about last week how episode 8 felt a little compact.
Oh, this felt
very.
This felt like two scenes. This basically was like two scenes.
Pretty much.
I know there was more, but there was two moments and it was done.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, the very first part of that you see of the episode, we talked about it a little last week. We just didn't know where they were going to go with it or how it was going to be introduced. But they spent a lot more time than I thought they were going to do. But they introduced Ellie's mom into the show, played by like Ashley Johnson, who played Ellie in the game, which was really cool to see her in here. We saw Troy Baker last week, so getting to see her this week was really, really cool. And we also got to see possibly how Ellie is immune to the virus and everything in this story. Now, Neil Druckmann has... You think it cheapens it a little bit?
I think it cheapens the impact of the decision that Joel makes in the end because, and I watched it with my girl, Marissa was like, that is such an easy thing to reproduce. Like, it's really not that hard of a circumstance. A pregnant woman who's willing to do it, gets bit, has a baby, there's another one that should be immune, like where in the game, you don't know, like you're like, she could just be a 1 in a billion chance, and I feel like it makes Joel's decision.
I mean, maybe it still is like a 1 in a billion chance because you don't never know how long you have to wait. Because I mean, maybe she cut that cord right at the right time.
Sure,
but yeah,
but that's an experiment we can do now, though. Like
that's gonna be a sick experiment, like to put these mothers through.
They were gonna kill this 13-year-old girl, man. What's the difference? Like,
that's true.
They're fine. They're scientists. They don't give a shit.
Neil Druckmann actually said that they were actually, I think it was between The Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2, they were planning on making like a prequel type game. Like Naughty Dog wasn't going to make it, but they were going to like kind of get outsource it to another studio. And it was going to be following like Ellie's mom, and it was going to include a lot of this sort of thing. And apparently this scene was going to be in there as well. But they did have this kind of plan for a while now, and the show was the perfect time to kind of put it in there into the story and kind of world build a little bit more. But this scene, I mean, Ashley Johnson was great in it, running around pregnant through the woods, and she was just running away from one clicker, I guess, who was just chasing her down through those woods and busted through the house that she was she had to bust into and everything. It was a tense scene, just her sitting there in that empty room, just pregnant. She's giving birth and then having to fight this clicker of this like infected, which is wild.
I feel like she lived in a world, though, where she should have known. Why would you go across the room and let the clicker get full speed? I'd be like right behind the door, so when it busted in, it would probably be laying on the ground, just like start stabbing it.
Yeah, either that or just get out that room again or something.
Yeah, if you can. But I understand she's like pregnant and hurting. I get it. But like, you gave that clicker like full steam towards you. It was going to bust in and then come at you.
Yeah, it was a tense scene. And just to know, after she sees like she got bit on the leg, she has to cut that cord, and then it's heartbreaking just to see that final moments of her just finally getting to see her child, and knowing that it's not going to be for long at this point and everything. And then you have like Marlene coming in,
which I think is even more heartbreaking when Marlene comes up.
Oh, I know.
And has to shoot her. I was like, oh man.
Yeah, and you get like Marlene, like as they're talking, you find out they've known each other their whole lives. and everything. Like they've been friends all this time, and she wants Marlene to take the child, and she even says like, "Oh, I cut the cord like before. Don't worry." Like how
Yeah,
it's like just trying to reassure her, even though I don't think she knew for sure if she did it in time.
yeah.
But she just wanted to save that kid, and that's where she even gives her the knife, like make sure she gets this and everything. And it's cold as ice how Marlene does it, but I guess you have to do it that way
Be
because it's
hard.
gonna be even more emotional if you just sit there and like
Talk.
talk about,
Yeah.
and then before you do it, she just walks right in there. She tells
I
the
think
guy to like cover the baby's ears, which he doesn't do at
doesn't
all.
do. Ellie's
He
deaf
doesn't
now.
do it all. They should have introduced that. Like Ellie has hearing problems for some
Yeah.
reason. We don't know why. And then origin story for Ellie's hearing problem. But yeah,
I,
that's
I
that's heartbreaking. The way she just walks in and bang, just does it, and you don't see it or anything. But
I'm
it's
with you though.
wild.
She probably just hyped herself up because she told her she's not doing it, and then she went right back in and did it. She's like, "All right, I got to do this." It's one of
Yeah,
those hard decisions you got to make.
yeah. Especially if it's someone like that's your best friend, like your whole life and everything. It'd be hard to do,
I'd sh-
but you would have
I'd
to
shoot you.
because yeah, I mean, I would want you to because
I'd
just
shoot
like
you.
Ellie's mom, I wouldn't want to be just a zombie, a mindless
Yeah,
zombie going around. I would want to die.
yeah. I don't want to be in this. I don't want to be a part of the negativity of this world. Get me out of here.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, that's a hell of an open scene to have, and that's why it's like I feel like you should have had at least an hour, so that way we could have had the typical runtime with Ellie and Joel and the rest of the story. You weren't
Hmm.
taking 10 minutes or whatever with just that beginning part. And I like how when you move to Ellie and Joel's story for the rest of the episode, how like a normal TV show or whatever, from episode to episode, it kind of resets a little bit. Whereas here, after all the events of episode 8, Ellie is still fucked up from everything.
Yeah.
She's quiet. She's barely talking to Joel. She's not joking around. She's not her normal self. And it's kind of flipped because Joel is now seeing her as his daughter, and
And just
he's
talking.
he's just talking nonstop. He's trying to get her to communicate, trying to get her to lighten up a little bit. He even asks her to like tell him like pull out the book and have like
Yeah.
talk about say some puns and jokes and stuff. So I mean,
I
he waits a little bit to kind of ask her like what's wrong. He lets her kind of be for a little bit until it was too much. And he's like, all right, we kind of got to talk about this.
I do feel, and I feel like I'm hating this episode. I did like it, I promise, but like I feel like it's too quick. I feel like
It is,
you're
yeah.
right. In the beginning, she's quiet. She's kind of shut down. She somehow sees this opening with this giraffe. I don't know, and we'll get to that point. But like
Yeah,
then
I
it's
don't know
good.
how.
Then she's good. We'll get there when we get to that point in the story. But like they get there. She sees this thing, and then it's not brought up again. Like she is. I mean, they get attacked very quickly after that. But I'm just like, okay, that's done with that plot thread. Like we're over it.
And
So
they
I don't
stop
know.
a couple times because at the one point where they stop, that's when they're like at that military camp, like the army
Yeah.
base or whatever, like the medical facility. And Joel says like he explains
Oh,
to her what it was and how they when they opened up not long after the quarantine, and that's like he had to go there because he ended up getting shot, like he was missed. And then like
yeah,
they have that whole conversation. That's when he tells Ellie like, yeah, it wasn't someone that missed. I missed. Like he tried to kill
yeah.
himself after his daughter died, and he said he just flinched. For some reason he flinched at the last second, and Ellie's like, I'm really glad that bullet missed. I'm really glad you're still here and
Did
everything.
and I haven't played the game in a while. Is the scar in the game, nor is it ever really like maybe I missed it. I don't feel like it was ever really a plot point in the movie or in the show. I was like, okay, we got the scar. I see it now, but I never really
I think it
noticed
was
it
brought
before.
up once before, but yeah,
Eh,
it's yeah.
I was like, all right, cool. There's a scar on his face. I never really noticed. I just didn't think about it.
But yeah, but you find out like Joel tried to kill himself and everything, and you have that like that conversation because he even tells her like as he's talking about that, he's starting to realize like we don't have to go to the Fireflies. If you want, we can just go back to Tommy's. We could live there, be happy. Like you could have a life and everything. And then she even says like, as great as that sounds, that means we would have came this far for nothing, and like Tess would have died for nothing. Everything that would happen to us would have happened for nothing. We have to go to the Fireflies. But then she's like, if after that we can go to Tommy's, we can go to the sheep farm, we can do whatever you want to do. And that's where she has that line that it hit me hard a little bit, where she's like, I'll follow you anywhere, Joel. Like I'll follow you
Yeah.
anywhere, but we have to do this first. And I was like, damn, Ellie, like that's awesome. There's a couple of lines in this episode that I like though.
The final one, they get it.
Yeah, they do get it. And that second one is like, as you're saying, like she's still quiet, and they go to that little. It's like a kind of a like roped off like building under construction and stuff. And you have that scene like from the games where like he's picking up the ladder, and she goes up, and she's like, oh, he boosts her up, and she's pulling
Yeah.
down the ladder, and she just like drops it on him. She sees something, and she's like, oh shit. But
And
I don't
this
know
is what
how
I'm
she
talking.
would have seen
Yeah,
that.
man, it is like way far away when Joel
They
walks. He
go
like
up the
rounds the corner,
stairs.
goes upstairs. I'm like, how the fuck did she see that? She was like, "What's that?"
But we finally got the giraffe scene. We've been
We get
talking
a
about
real giraffe.
a real. When I watched it, I didn't think it was a real giraffe. I thought it was
Me either.
CG, but it
Me
is
too, man.
real. They
It's a
did
real
it in like
giraffe.
a whole blue screen set and everything. Maybe that's why, because it was surrounded by so much CG. Maybe that's why it looked fake.
It
Um,
moved weird, and listen, I'm not a giraffe expert, but it's just like it moved really like
yeah,
strange that I was like, oh, it's CG, but it was good CG. But I was like, oh, it's a real giraffe, or it's
yeah.
just a big joke, and it is a CG
And it
giraffe.
has been a while since I played the game, but I was for sure thought this was much earlier in the game than at the very end. I thought this was like
Yeah,
not too far after. It was like after Joel and Ellie had their relationship built and everything. I thought it was before this though.
I think it is close at the end, but I mean, it's like right after this scene they
Hmm.
get caught. Like, and I do think there's a little bit more, but it is closer to the end because you are in Seattle by that point. I think
Yeah.
that's where you see them. Obviously, the game's so much more stretched out. You had to climb 50 more ladders and push her across 50 more pallets of water. She can't swim,
Yeah.
which also never comes up again. Like, she brings it up one time, never again. You think it'd be a plot point, like
Have
that
like that
one time.
pushing her Joel pushing her across on that pallets through the water and
Yeah,
everything.
which
Yeah.
would have been a cool little nod, or at least one scene where water was the threat to Ellie, where he had to carry her or something.
He should have had to build a
Never brought up.
weapon at some point too. Like
Yeah,
a makeshift like bat with like nails or like
they're
something like how you construct the weapons in the game. You should have had to do that in the show. Like he
yeah,
finds a lot of shit, but he doesn't build something, which would have been cool. But hey, you
which would
can't
have been
have
cool.
everything. Not
Yes, I
everything
can.
translates well.
Yes, I can.
It was great seeing the giraffe scene. I feel like it had the same impact, and that's
Yeah,
really what kind of opened up their conversation at that point. Because it was cool to see some, like we mentioned in, I think it was the episode 3, the Frank and Bill at the very end with the window and everything. It's nice to see some of the beauty in this, decrepit world they're living in and everything. So to see a giraffe and its family, living amongst the wreckage of the city, it's really cool.
it is curious. You would think these mushrooms would attack these
That's what I
giraffes
was
too.
like. Not just the giraffes, but
Yeah,
any of the
dogs,
animals.
everything.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
dogs, the those deers and stuff that they find. Like you would think the
why would
animals would get infected,
why would a mushroom, like a plant, care if you're a human or not? Like, why the fuck would it care? Um,
right? That's what I
did you
was thinking.
Did you also see they did kept the baseball thing, they kept that ode. In the video game, a guy writes like his wife's name on the baseball thing. It's her
Yeah,
field, and
I
they
did
kept
see
it in
they
the
kept
show.
it in. I didn't notice it like as it was watched, but I saw
I
like
didn't either, but I saw it
the
later.
different things afterwards, like posted on social media. It was
I
really
was like, oh,
cool.
that's cool. That's not that's cool, like video game to movie kind of shit to me.
Yeah, and of course, as they're leaving there, not long after, it's such a quick scene, but I like how it develops as they're walking and talking, and you just see in the background the
Yeah.
soldiers sneaking up on them, and they throw the flashbang, and man, they fucked Joel up. Like it wasn't needed, but they
Mhm.
didn't know who he was apparently, from what Marlene says. But yeah, Joel wakes up in the hospital. Ellie's not there. Marlene has to break it to him, like, yeah, like, that's where she kind of explains why Ellie is the way she is. Like the infection, I guess when she was born after her mother got bit, the infection got into her body, but it didn't. It was just enough that it didn't infect her, but it's enough that stays in her system where if she does
They
get
think
bit,
it is.
it tricks it into thinking she's already infected, so it doesn't
Yeah.
spread.
So like the base of her brain or something,
Yeah,
where
it's
it's
something
not.
in her
It's not.
brain, but
Yeah.
to proceed with trying to make a cure or a vaccine, they have to take her brain out, I guess. They don't say exactly what they have to do, but it does involve her brain, so you're assuming they have to do brain surgery and it's going to kill her. They don't outright
Yeah.
say that's going to kill her, but it's implied that she's going to die because of the surgery. She's going to sacrifice her life. Joel is like, "What the fuck?" He's like,
Yeah.
"What the hell?" Like, and
This scene could have been extended too. Where they're
yeah.
first talking could have been extended. Like, I feel like it's so like she's just like, oh, they're gonna do it, and he's just like, okay, and then they start walking away. But I was like, man, we could have
Yeah.
really used more here.
And this is where everything kind of gets messy. Not just as far
Yeah,
as the story itself, but as far as like people's opinions on everything. So it's like not just people not outside, but I'm saying
yeah,
like
yeah.
as far as like Joel and Marlene and stuff, because Marlene even tells Joel like you're being selfish, you're doing it for your interests, like you're
Which
looking
he
at her as a
is.
daughter, which he is, but at
Yeah.
the same time, they never even asked Ellie if she wanted to go through with this and everything. They didn't let her know like she was going to have to go into surgery or go through everything. So like
Yeah,
they're
and
very
Marlene has the
hypocritical.
audacity. Marlene has the audacity to be like, well, Ellie would make the same choice, later. She
Yeah,
does,
it's
and
like you didn't
maybe
even
she
ask
would,
her.
but you didn't give her that choice.
Yeah, and it wasn't right
I,
for Joel to take that upon himself though either, but that's how the story is.
I mean, I think that's what makes the weight of this
Oh
decision
yeah, absolutely.
so great, so human. But this scene could have they could have really hammered in how like she's gonna save everybody. Like this is it. Like I feel like it's just like oh yeah, she's gonna save billions, Joel. Like one to save millions. And it's just like one line where I really feel like they could have, hammered that point in for not just me, but for everybody viewing the show
Yeah, it did go by very quickly. Like
very
they could
quick.
have made it seem like maybe they had someone before or something and it didn't work out, or they were on like they could have explained some of the process they went through before to try to do this and it didn't work out. I don't know. They could have had a little bit more information into it other than a couple passing lines here or there, but
Show them some failed, even if it's not like people immune. Show them lab result, like a walk and talk kind of thing, where she's showing him things like,
yeah,
we've
instead of
been
just
doing
in
this
this
for
little
years.
tiny
Yeah, wait,
room.
and take him out. Like he wakes up and she's like, get him out instantly. She's like, get him
Yeah,
out of
she
here.
has that little speech. He like gets up to fight or whatever, and like they subdue him and they take him out. And I mean, this is probably one of the best scenes of the episode too. I've watched
Mm,
it a couple different times. I think it could have definitely been drawn out a little bit more, but I think the way that they did it, I think it was very well done. Like the way that they let him into the hall and they're going down the stairs. And he just keeps stopping and thinking and
yeah.
looking at like the different like tags of like the different where things are at in the hospital. And they like, keep going, keep fucking moving or whatever. And then that stairwell, he just fucking,
Gets
he, yeah, he just gets them, their guns and everything. And this scene is great because it's just kind of a montage of him going through this hospital, just the
brutal.
one man army. And it has just that, just the music is so dark and ominous over top of it. It's
Yeah.
so great. It was so well done, and it's just so brutal. Just him
It was
just murking
yeah.
everybody, and the scenes like where the one dude like drops his gun to surrender, and he still pops him and just moves on, and then he shoots the one dude in the hospital room, and he runs out of ammo, and you see him flick the knife open, and you're like, oh shit! Like I,
She's gonna
I got
kill him.
chills watching it because he flicked the knife open and then just walked in to stab the shit out of him. And then it's just like the game, like you're moving on, you run out of ammo, you're picking up another gun, and you see him do
Yeah,
that a couple times.
he gets pistol. He's like using a rifle, and he gets a pistol and stuff.
Yeah,
This
it
The
was
music was
great.
great. My neighbor, I live in like connected condos, and my neighbor actually texted me, and they were like, "It's late," like because like my bass was like, "Oh,"
Oh yeah.
because like everything was like the music was going heavy, and I was like, "Oop, my bad."
But it was a great scene, and even just like when he reaches the hospital, like the surgery room and everything, or the doctor's like, I can't allow you to take her. This is it, and just no questions, just bang, shoots him right in
Yeah.
the fucking. And even you think he's gonna kill the nurses when he asks them to turn around and everything, but no, he leaves them go. But Joe didn't give a fuck at all in this
Mm.
scene. He was doing what he wanted. He wasn't losing another girl under his watch. It's heavy, man. I think they did a great job with it. Apparently, the girl that plays Abby in the sequel
Is
is
I
one of the
saw it.
nurses in there,
Mhm.
apparently, which is pretty cool. It's like you wouldn't
Which is
even have noticed because of the mask and everything, but it's a
which is
nice
kind
little
of what we
thing.
wanted. We said we wanted Abby in this episode. We were like, "Oh, maybe they can introduce Abby," but
And
not the same way.
it's interesting because the dude that created the game, Neil Druckmann, he even said that she played that same part in the game when they were doing the mocap. She played one of the nurses in that same spot in the game, and then they liked her so much that like they brought her back to audition for Abby and everything. That's how she got the role.
They
But
wrote
it's
a whole
cool to
half of
kind
the
of have
game
it
for
come
her.
full circle when she's playing the same character
Same nurse.
in the show.
Maybe she'll get Abby.
Maybe, who knows? I actually didn't look up to see like what she looked like or anything. So maybe she could be Abby in the show. Who knows? Maybe
I mean,
she might be too old, but
I heard they don't want to, but I heard they're down. okay with recasting Bella Ramsey if
If
she
sh
didn't want to do
Yeah, if
it.
she didn't wanna leave.
And
I think she's gonna
and
come back, though.
I think so
I
too.
think you
But then,
have. It's gonna I feel like it'd be so jarring to recast going into a season 2 after such a great performance by Bella Ramsey, like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
would rather wait a couple years if you had to than recast.
yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I'm gonna be okay if they recast, like, if that's what it had to be. I'd rather have a
Yeah.
season 2 than not have a season
Yeah,
2
yeah,
if she
yeah,
was like, "No, I don't
for
wanna do
sure.
it." But yeah, yeah, but I saw that. But anyways,
Yeah, he gets down in that elevator and he runs into Marlene in the parking garage there, and she even says like, "Hey, I know what you went through. You killed a lot of people, and you know you've messed a
you
lot of
can just
stuff
go.
up, but we can still fix this. We can find other ways to do this." He says, "No, I'm good."
No, I don't
Shoots
trust
her,
you.
and then you have like it kind of cuts forward a little bit, like you had doing the game, where it's Joel driving in the truck, and you see Ellie laying in the back seat, and that's cutting back and forth, and where Ellie wakes up and she's asking him what happened. Joel could have came up with a better lie, I feel like, than saying like, "Oh, they found a lot. There's a lot more
Eh,
people like you, Ellie,"
there's a
or whatever.
bunch.
And then he doubled down, saying, "Oh, and then the hospital got raided and everything." He's like, "You got to pick.
Everybody's
It's
dead.
one or the other, man." I feel like you're throwing different things out here. It's making it definitely unbelievable at this point.
Well, I think that's a point in the end, she doesn't
Yeah.
really believe him.
Yeah, and then you have that flashback with Marlene again, like after he shoots her, and she's like, "Just let me go, it'll be fine. Like, I'll move on." And that you get that last line by him there. He's like, "You're just gonna come after her," and bam,
Mhm.
and you have the headshot and everything. It just seals it. Fantastic. I wish that would have been drawn out a little bit more. Not just that scene, but the hospital in general. I feel like it went by way too fast in this episode. But for what it was fantastic what they did with it straight from the
It was
game.
cool. Yeah, I mean, like I said in the beginning, it's kind of a flip side of the coin. You either get is it long and it not drawn out in a bad sense, but we
Yeah.
get to see a lot more, or this was very effective, very brutal, very like bated breath. You almost held your breath through the whole scene, and you could because it was so short. It was not so short. It was a long action scene. It was a long stalking scene of
Yeah.
him just shooting people. But yeah, I think it's a good argument both ways on what you do. I do like what they did with it.
Yeah. And then I mean you get the last scene of the show where like their car breaks down and they're walking up through like the mountains, and this must have been a while after they left Tommy's, because it's not there's no snow on the ground anymore. It's like
Yeah.
spring. They see like Tommy's like encampment and everything, the town. That whole scene, it kind of puts you in Ellie's shoes a little bit, because you feel uncomfortable this whole scene as they're walking, and Joel's just nonstop talking about his daughter and like how they would have been good friends and they would have got along and how they're alike, but then how they're not alike. And he's like, just
You also got a nice smile. I mean, not
kind of, yeah,
she's
kind of being rude in a way. Like she's girly, not like you, but I mean, you're not. I mean, you can be girly at times. But
he's awkward at this
he's
point.
very awkward. But just those scenes where he's just talking about his daughter so much to her, and it's like you feel for her a little bit in that scene. It's a little cringe. Or like, Joel, you're laying along a little thick, buddy. Like, we get
We
it.
get it. You just killed a lot of people for her, but
Where
I admit
you
it.
think at some point she's gonna be like, "Dude, I'm not your daughter. Like, I love you,
Uh,
Joel, but I'm not your daughter." Like, come on, dude. But then she stops him dead in his tracks, and she's just like, "If we're gonna go any farther, I need you to promise me that like everything you said back there is true." Like, that's
yeah,
just the gist of it. I'm paraphrasing, obviously.
paraphrasing.
But
Just
I mean, he promises her. Yeah, I mean,
straight lies to her face.
lies straight to her face, and like we mentioned before, that the show went exactly out as the game did, where she just says, "Okay, that
Yeah,
all right," and then
and
black man. That's
it was
so
good as
great.
a video game ending. It was good as a show ending. It is such a human choice, and like I think that's what separates The Last of Us, the video game, and this
Yeah,
from most zombie apocalypse where they're looking for the cure and they have to make the ultimate sacrifice for the cure. This is such a human decision to be like, no, I'd rather live in this fucked up world with a person that I love and a person I care about, even if there's a chance for a cure. And I loved it when it was in the video game, and I love it here, man. It's awesome. It was
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, much like the rest of the show, even though you know exactly what's going to happen, when it happens, it still blows your mind. And
Still great.
it took me right back to when I beat the game for the very first time, and you're just like, wow, that's how it
Yeah.
ends. Like,
You
I
made
need
the
to see
decision.
more. I need to see what
Yeah.
happens. Like, that's how you're gonna end it? Like, even though there's been crazier cliffhangers, like action sequence cliffhangers and bigger
Yeah,
things like that, but somehow The Last of Us with just that question and just that lie at the end over like tops everything, I feel like.
I agree. It's again, I've said it a few it's human. It's such a relatable decision and a relatable position in your life. Like everybody wants to be the hero. Everybody thinks when, especially when you play video games and stuff, or you have that willing suspense of disbelief in a show where you're like, you put yourself in this hero's shoes. You think you'd make that decision, but as a human, you'd probably make Joel's decision.
Yeah.
You'd probably save Ellie, save your daughter, or you'd be like, no, I'm not. No, I don't care.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
and that's like what you said. It's a human decision. That's something you don't really get to see often. I mean, you see it in some movies, but I feel like it's taken for granted. You don't get
you don't see
those
it in
real
stories like
reactions.
this. Yeah,
Exactly.
you don't
Yeah.
see it in stories like this very often. This isn't a drama, like the show is more, but especially in the video game, you never see these decisions in video games.
Hmm.
Everybody's the hero, everybody's saving the planet, everybody's doing the self-sacrifice, where they strap themselves to a bomb and everybody does that.
Hmm.
This was good. It's
Yeah.
I'm
It's
speechless
it's
almost.
fantastic. And what's even greater is everything you see in the last 15 minutes, 20 minutes of that episode is what sets up everything to come. Like
Mhm.
everything you saw in those last like 15 minutes affects everything going forward. It has such huge repercussions on the story going forward. And I am very envious for people that haven't played the games that are going to be waiting for that season 2 and they have no idea what to expect whatsoever and they're going to be so crushed. They're going to be so fucking
The
crushed.
spoilers alert for anybody who didn't see season or didn't play the second game.
Yeah, we might be
Eh,
getting into some spoilers,
Get out
and
of
I'm
here
so
now.
happy because after we watched the last episode when it premiered, and that was like, so for season 2, is they're writing everything? Is there actually a continuation? Or I was like, no, there's another game. Like,
Eh,
and I feel like she doesn't remember anything about me talking to it. So I'm
yes.
pretty sure she doesn't remember anything about it. So I'm not gonna say a
Yes.
damn word about it to
I'm
her. So I'm just gonna let her kind of marinate on the season and kind of think about some suggestion, like
I'm
what could
gonna
come.
I'm gonna do it with Marissa, man. Like she doesn't know what happened. I don't think I ever told her. And right before season two comes out, I'm gonna rewatch the season.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna
And
get it on
then
like Blu-ray or something.
yeah, I'll probably get. We'll see. Well, because there's only gonna be 2 or 3 seasons. I know they said we're gonna cut the second season to multiple seasons, but they can only do 2 seasons. They can't do like 3 or 4, not from one game. That'd be
Or
fucking
do like an
wild.
extended season or something. Like
Yeah,
kind of how
I,
like The Walking Dead did it, where you had like half of a season was like 10 episodes and the other half was 10. It could be like a
yeah.
split season kind of
I'm
thing.
cool. I'm cool with even 2 9 10 episode seasons. I feel like the second game's got enough that we can get 2 seasons out of it.
Yeah.
Um, the time jumps are maybe going to be a little weird, but you could do it.
Yeah, like we mentioned before, I thought in the last one, you need to weave them in and out of each other. You can't
Uh,
just have 10 hours of the one story and then 10 hours the other and then have them connect again.
yeah,
It's not going to work with a show, I feel like.
I don't
It
think
didn't
so
even
either.
really work for the game in my
It,
opinion. That was the only issue I had with the game was how it was kind of how it was paced.
yeah, it is some. It'll be hard, but I mean, I trust him. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, you got
You
to
know,
learn from some of your mistakes. I mean, they already said they're not going to be changing much from season 2 and because they even asked him about like are you going to change anything because of the criticisms and everything
no,
around season 2 and he said, "No. I don't
no.
care." It's like
I
what do
mean,
you
I hate it as a gamer because I want to be Joel, but like, I get it. I get it in a story sense. Like,
Yeah.
it's an impactful
I
moment.
mean, they did give some hints. Like they did say they are definitely going to dive into the events between the games more than you
Sure.
see. And I mean, you do get a couple things in part 2 from between, but apparently they're going to actually be diving into a lot of more of the backstory between the two games. That way,
Mm,
like pretty much what we did through this first season, you did get some of that stuff that you didn't get in the game. You get some more, explanation behind some of the things. You get the stuff with like Bill that you didn't have in the game. You can
yeah.
dive into some of the stuff that you kind of maybe wanted to know more about in part 2.
I hope if they do it, I hope they do it in flashback form though, because I don't want a front loaded. Like, I don't want to see a bunch of like the downtime in the first 2 3 episodes.
Yeah, like they did in the game. Like
Yeah.
not like not like what I mean, like where they push it to the front, but like in this part two, they did space it out,
Ah.
like the flashbacks kind of throughout the game a
Oh,
little
I hope
bit.
they go to the museum, the space
Oh,
museum, and
I
I hope
know,
they put
dude.
hats on every dinosaur.
And sit in the rocket and
Hey,
everything. That'd be cool.
oh god, I hope they do that soon.
And I mean, they did mention it was kind of alluded to it a little bit. That's going to be. I would hope they carry it in the part two like they did. But Joel in this episode, as they're walking down the road, he mentions like I saw a guitar back there. It was all
Yeah, he
broken
wants to
up,
teach her.
but maybe I'll teach you how to play guitar and everything, which comes into part two in a big way. So they're kind
Mm.
of putting some things in there ahead of time a little bit,
And it's like
which
they
that's
have
one
a
of my favorite
plan.
scenes in part two is like him singing to her and everything. I love that scene.
Yeah. Again, it's been a while since I've beaten part one 2 or 3 times.
Hmm.
I've never even beaten part two. I really got to go do it,
You
man. I
got to,
got it.
man.
I got to. I got to play
At
the
least
end.
before the second season comes out, unless you
Oh,
want to be
sure.
surprised.
Yeah, maybe I can do that. Like, fuck it. Like, I can see how this ends for the show.
I'd rather watch like a 20-hour show or whatever than a 30, 40-hour game.
Yeah. Well, I probably don't even have that long. I probably have like 2, 3 hours left in the game, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't have too much longer. But yeah. I'm excited for season two. I think they could have I think they rushed season one a little bit.
A little
Um
bit.
I
It definitely should have
do
been 10 episodes, I think, though.
should have been 10 episodes. I do agree with most criticism that there was not enough clickers, especially in the last or 3 episodes.
Yeah.
There is like no clickers. And or not the infected. I know clickers are a certain type of infected,
Yeah.
but
We know
there's
what you mean.
not there's not enough infected. I think the last 3 episodes there's what, two? Three?
Yeah. I mean, in the game, there should, like you said, there should have been a lot more, especially like in that episode 8, because Ellie and David like fight off that infected and stuff in that little
Yeah.
cabin where they're holding up. When she doesn't really know who David is at that point, but they have to hold off the infected together while they're waiting for like the other dude, I forget his name, Troy Baker, and
Yeah. Troy
in the show.
Troy Baker. Yeah, I mean that's a definite ball drop. I mean, and I get it. It's a very human story, but come on. I don't know if it was a money thing, if they were just like, we don't
Maybe
need
they
it.
spent all the money on that bloater suit, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, we can't afford anything else."
Well, I mean,
And it's
and
a
I
first
totally
season too.
it's a first season, and I totally get from a producer standpoint, from HBO's standpoint, to be like, ooh, do we want to sink? It's not Game of Thrones,
That's
we
what,
don't
yeah.
know the audience is coming. We're
Where
in
it's
Game of
like
Thrones.
now
Like,
where it outviewed House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones, where it's like, all
yeah,
right, we're gonna push all the fucking money into season two
now
and
let's
whatever,
put money into it. Exactly.
so
Let's put
we
people
can
will
get the
watch it.
infected and all these huge scenes and bigger, better effects and stuff like that. It's
Yeah. Oh,
I
I just thought
agree
the
though.
effects were good,
Oh yeah,
but we do need more infected. We need. I would love whole scenes of or whole episodes of like almost a horror movie. Almost where they're just like if that scene where they're in the
in
upstairs
episode
with the
2, yeah.
clickers in episode 2, if that scene could be extended, oh man, come on, that'd be so good, man.
That would be tense. That'd be really
So
tense.
good.
And there's a lot of different areas you could do that in part two as well. Not just with
Yeah.
clickers, but there's a lot of different. I feel like part two definitely has you can go in a very horror route with that part two in certain areas. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of there's a lot of heavy shit in Last of Us Part 1, but there's even more heavy shit, like
Yeah.
dark stuff happening in part 2. So I'm hoping they don't tune it down, which it's HBO, they shouldn't. But
Yeah.
there is a lot of parts in season 1 here where they do cut away from some of the violence, where they want to leave it more to your imagination than just show you. Where it's like that works in certain points, but with this kind of show where it's gritty and you're dealing with a lot of hard shit, you need to go into the dirty and gritty stuff
Yeah.
sometimes to show you how brutal it can be.
Yeah, it's like when she kills David, like I'm cool with the camera shot because that's very brutal. But
Yeah.
on a cutaway, you couldn't have showed just a bloody mess there,
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of stuff that I think they could add into it. Marlene, I totally get. That needs to be kind of open ended. Maybe he didn't shoot her, maybe,
Mhm.
but I understand the cutaways from that kind of shit. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I
That could
loved it,
also
man.
have been a budget thing too. Who knows?
Could have been a budget thing. I gotta say, I absolutely loved it. I do think people ranted it a little too much. People are talking about how it's like the perfect show, and I'm like,
Yeah, I
it's not
wouldn't say
that.
it's a 10 out of 10 masterpiece
I wouldn't even
show.
say 9. I would say 8.5,
eight and a
8-ish.
half. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a great show. Great show.
it is.
But
I absolutely loved it. It does have just nitpicks here and there.
sure.
It's the damn you do, damn if you don't type thing we mentioned before.
Oh yeah.
Like we talked about a couple of times. Like you make it longer, you run the risk of being a little too boring and have a
Mhm.
lot more scenes of them just walking around or just talking and stuff. Where you already didn't have enough like infected and stuff, that would have been even drawn out more. Where it's like, and then you compact it, it's gonna feel too tight and too clean a little bit.
Sure.
It's not gonna
Yeah.
have as much of effect. So it's like I feel like the way they did it was great. Even if you were just added that one more episode, I feel like
One
that
more.
would have been just enough. Like the 50 minutes more, you could have drawn it out. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. I feel like it is for a first season going off of a game.
Damn great.
This is probably the best video game adaptation we've gotten so far. I mean, it's
Oh yeah.
debatably one of the best video game
Yeah.
adaptions we've had. So I
It's up there.
mean, for a first season and a first effort, I think it was fantastic. But with that being said, you are going off of a video game that was already fucking a movie in itself. It was already massively written and paced out. So
Yeah.
to take that game and to push it into like 9 hours, 10 hours, it is going to be hard to put everything in there. But I don't know. I think they did a very good job though for a first season and what they had.
Honestly, you said, and maybe not for guilty pleasure, this might be the best video game adaptation ever. I'm even trying to rack my brain to think of one that is is
Comes
better.
close to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's plenty that I like, and you're talking about the good writing and stuff. There's plenty. Listen, and I don't hate the Uncharted movie. It was fine,
See, I
but
didn't see the Uncharted movie.
and it was fine. It was a fun action film, but the writing and stuff in Uncharted, not that it's a heavy, but it's great, like so it doesn't translate one for one. I'd much rather play the game.
Yeah.
Like when you translate something's movies, it doesn't work. The movie was fine. It
Yeah.
was
But
fine.
that's where it's like, it's harder for people to translate games like Mortal Kombat or Resident
Oh
Evil
yeah,
or stuff like
which
that, where it's like it's already corny and cheesy as far as dialogue and how it's presented. Whereas like The Last of Us, you have everything there at your disposal. It's not as hard to translate because the
sure.
writing is already there. It's strong. It's already a great game. It's a little easier for you to translate where it's like,
Well, I
what are we
think
supposed
they're
to do? Where Resident Evil, you have the basic story and premise, but you kind of do have to write everything new within it to make it.
well, I think they're learning that people want to see the games.
Yeah, exactly.
Gamers will rewatch the story on the big screen, and people who are not gamers are going to get to enjoy a story that's already set place. Listen, and I'll defend the first two Resident Evils. I think they're good movies. I think they're fun.
I'll
Like the
defend at
first
least
two
the
are,
first one. Yeah.
I like the second one. They're in Raccoon City. Anyways, it doesn't matter. We're getting sidetracked there, but I could watch Resident Evil 1. Like, yeah, it's a stupid, like, crazy story, but like you can condense that into a show. Or game one of Resident Evil has enough twists and turns. There's like a villain that twists, but Hollywood always gets their hands on it and twists it and makes it
Yeah.
something that it's not. And then you're like, who's your audience anymore?
Yeah. No one
Like
asked for
yeah,
this.
you're pissing me off because I'm a Resident Evil fan and I came here and she got psychic powers now. Like what the fuck is going
You're giving us
on?
everything that's not Resident Evil in a Resident
Yeah.
Evil movie. It's like, what the
And
fuck, man?
for the people who didn't watch Resident Evil and they're just there to see a cool action film, like they'd have been there anyways. Like who fucking cares?
Yeah.
They just went and saw Resident Evil and they're like, oh cool, I never played the game. I'll go watch this.
Hmm.
So I'm hoping this really pushes forward to make more video game movies. I know the God of War show, Amazon apparently picked up the God of War show. That is a fine story. Just leave it
Just
alone.
do it as the game does it.
Yeah,
It's not
do it as
hard.
the game. It's not that hard. Keep the major beats, and that's all they did in this Last of Us. There are changes. Everything's got to be changed. I get that, but the major beats have to hit still. They
Yeah.
have to go how I remember them at least. So
And it's like there's certain things that like in the 90s, even though how cheesy it is, but it's so loved because it kind of sticks to the source materials. But like the original Mortal Kombat movie, it's so
Yeah.
cheesy and stuff, but it's exactly what you wanted. It's a Mortal Kombat tournament with all your characters you like and everything. It's like
and it's fine. It's when they got to the second one where
exactly
you're
you
like,
started going off the rails to some
You went
ridiculous
off the-
shit.
I like the first Mortal Kombat movie, you
Yeah,
know?
I do too.
And listen, and I like bad video game movie too. I like the Super Mario movie. It's terrible. I
It's
know
been
it
a
is,
long time since I've
but I
seen that
grew up
one.
with it, watching it, and I'm so like I have a soft spot for it. I
Yeah.
completely understand it's not a good Mario
Yeah,
movie
but,
though.
like, Max Payne, what were you
Mm,
doing? You
well,
had the
thinking
video games right there, you coulda followed them. What are you
again,
doing?
even Max, like that's not a huge story that like goes too far. Like you could have wrote that just as it was,
Exactly,
just as
like,
it was.
it's the Hollywood gets in and, like, we need the big action set pieces, we need to do whatever is popular at that time or,
Mm.
everything. So it's like, I don't know, instead of sticking like, just what I said, it's instead of sticking to what makes the games great, they try to Hollywood it up and make it into, like, a blockbuster type thing where maybe depending on what that game is, maybe it shouldn't be a blockbuster type movie, like, I don't know.
Ah, man, I'm gonna look up right here now and see what these 49 best TV shows based. There's 10 TV shows based on games.
TV shows.
This is just TV shows. The Witcher was pretty good. I
Yeah, which was okay. The first season, it jumped around way too much for me. I know that's
it
what a
did.
lot of people's problems were, but it was way all over the place. But
It wasn't
it
as
had
good as
some good
this,
stuff in it.
but it had The Witcher's harder because it's not a story from like start to finish. It's an open world story.
Yeah.
That's a lot more thing. I didn't watch Arcane, but I did hear it was good.
Yeah, I didn't see that one.
Um, Castlevania's good.
I haven't seen that one.
Uh, Pokemon.
Pokemon.
Oh, there's a digital series of Alien Isolation.
Yeah, I feel like with Castlevania, because that's an anime, right?
Yeah, the Castlevania. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Castlevania one was good.
Yeah, see, I feel like with an anime too, I feel like that one, I haven't seen it, but it looks like it stays true to how the games are.
I'm looking through this chart right now, and probably none of these movies are very
Yeah,
good.
I mean, there's a ton of them I haven't seen though too. Like I haven't seen the Assassin's Creed movie or anything. So
Me
I heard
either.
that was garbage. I mean, the Doom
Sonic. I
movie.
didn't even watch Sonic, and I heard
See,
they were good.
I heard those are good.
I heard those are good.
Doom
Oh,
wasn't
I
great.
like. I do like it, but it isn't good. It's not a good
I
Doom
like the first
movie.
person part of the
Yeah,
the game where it's running around
I,
and like the chainsaw and everything. It was cool.
I like the Rock in it. I got a soft spot for the Rock. The Werewolf Within, by the way, according to Rotten Tomatoes, is the best video game movie of all time, and I have heard it's good.
I didn't know they made a movie of that.
Yeah, they made a movie of the werewolf thing, and the new Mortal Kombat is rated higher than the old Mortal Kombat. So that's
I
bullshit.
don't know how that happened, but
Yeah,
that
get the shit
movie
out of here.
was trash.
Uh,
We have
did
an
you see Monster
old
Hunter?
review of that. Make sure to go check out that review of Mortal Kombat.
That's
That
an
was one of our
old review.
first reviews.
Yeah,
It might be rough. It's been a while since I've seen that one, but hey, go back and watch it.
but to focus us back on track, man. Maybe I'm a spoiled little rat lowering it so much because I'm with you. I think this might be the best video game adaptation that I've seen in a long,
I
long time,
agree.
and so
And
maybe I'm hating a little
hopefully,
much.
because of the success of this, maybe people will actually start taking video game adaptations seriously now and start doing them as the games are. Like
Yeah,
you can, and I mean, The Last of Us proved that you can follow the basic story and incorporate newer things into it. Just don't make it
you
just
can't.
don't make everything the new thing.
Yeah, you can't get outlandish.
Yeah, don't go over the top with
Resident
it.
Evil.
I didn't see
Resident
the yeah, Resident Evil. I didn't see the Monster Hunter one, but Quentin did, and he's an expert monster hunter.
He
So
loved
and he said it was trash. So
I
I
took his
respect
word
his
for it.
opinion. I mean, it was the same dude that directed the Resident Evil movies, so I wasn't
Yeah.
surprised.
Well, once I saw her in it, nobody else is giving her an acting job.
Mila Jovovich. Well, I mean, it's her husband, so
Yeah.
he's the only one giving her acting job.
What
Wasn't he the
Pikachu
one that
was
did
good.
Mortal Kombat? The first one?
Yeah, he is the one.
It's so crazy. Like, how are you going to do a movie like that where it's so close to the game, but then you're like, oh, Resident Evil, I can do whatever I want with this one. I can go crazy.
I'll tell you why, and because when you put creativity in a box and you don't let them go outside of it, I think people come up with some great. When you give them limitations, they come up with some great shit. And that speaks to The Last of Us too. They gave them the limitations of, listen, you can do what you want, but you are sticking to this story. This is your box. Paul or W.S. Anderson, whatever the fuck his name is, Paul W.S. Anderson,
Yeah.
whatever. First Resident Evil movie, pretty good. I think they put him in a box. Second one, I think is pretty good. Then they were like, oh, these make money.
You could do whatever
Go
you
to
want with them.
town, and then it goes off the fucking rails when
He's
nobody
like,
says no to him
anything,
anymore.
eh?
And then he's like,
I'm gonna
clones.
make the
It's like
third one
pal.
in the desert, where at like they went way off, and then
Oh,
it's
dude, there's
I don't know.
clones.
They introduced
There's
Wesker. I didn't even watch them after 4. I don't think.
I think I own them all. I think I have like a box set of all of
I
them.
stopped after a certain point because I was like, this. I love Resident Evil as the games, but those movies, I cannot do it. I can't do it.
Uh,
I still haven't
I
seen
think
the newest one, the Welcome to Raccoon City, even though that one's
neither.
supposed to be faithful to the games, those first two games.
Yeah, I heard that one's a little all over the place too, but
Yeah, and the show. Go watch my review of the show.
never seen it. I did watch your review, and I didn't watch it
Fucking
because of your review.
trash. That's the probably the worst video game adaptation I've ever seen, and it's because it's not
Oof.
even based off of one of the video games. It's just Resident Evil in title, pretty
Yeah,
much.
I did. I was kind of excited for it. I watched your review because I was a little late to getting to watch it, and then I was like, "Meh, I'm good."
I'm not gonna get into that one, but hopefully, with like you said, they're developing that God of War series. I'm sure with the success of this and possibly God of War, TBD on that one.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
Amazon.
we'll
We'll see.
maybe we'll see a resurgence in video game adaptions and actually see them be good.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
I
fingers
we got to
crossed.
do the same thing if a God of War comes, and I do trust Amazon too. They're not afraid to get brutal.
Hopefully,
The boys is brutal, so
the
they'll
boys
do a
is
brutal show.
brutal.
They'll
Yeah,
do a brutal show.
hopefully. Anything else we want to talk about here regarding the Last of Us finale or like possibly a part two, season two? You think it'll be called season two, or it will be Last of Us part two for the
Part
season?
two. It's gotta be part two. Well, then you get confusing if you split it.
Part two, part two.
Part two, part two, season two,
part part two B or something.
part two, side B.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. It seems like we're going to be waiting a bit. I mean, there's rumors about them possibly filming at the end of this year for season two already.
Oh
So,
yeah, man.
so who knows? They might be kicking it out real
I
quick, getting it
I
out by
hate.
the end of next year, maybe 2024, 2025 or something.
Oh, that'd be such a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
I hate internet culture though, because every article is just like, "Here's what's gonna happen in season two. Here's our predictions for the episode." I saw a list of the
I
predictions of
saw that
episodes. I
too.
was like, "What the fuck are we doing? Who got paid to write this?"
Slow news day is what it
Yeah.
must be.
Here's a prediction of what they're gonna do in season, what the episodes are going to be. I'm like, get
Yeah.
out of here.
Like, oh my gosh. Like, you have nothing to report.
Oh, good for you. You played the game. You know the basics of it.
You gotta spoil everybody that hasn't played
Mm.
the games already.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
what does
internet
this
culture.
mean?
What do
Imagine
you
someone that
mean?
hasn't played the game.
What do you
just like,
mean, Joel's death?
what? Oh, great. I'm spoiled
Great.
now. I don't know. I think it was absolutely fantastic. I love what they did with season
Yeah.
one. I mean, we've already kind of mentioned the little nitpicks throughout the season. If you're tuning into this one and you haven't seen our past reviews, go check those out. I think we did pretty well with those. My favorite episode so far, and I think you
Oh,
already
yeah?
said last week what yours was, episode 5 with Sam and Henry, man.
Yep.
I feel like you had Sam and Henry, you had such a heartbreaking end. That was the one that really made me cry in the season. You had Joel and Ellie, moving through the city, working with Sam and Henry, and you also had the chick from 2.5 Men who's like leading the revolution and everything. You had her story. You had the bloater and all the huge infected swarm, murking everybody. You had the little infected child. I feel like you had a little bit of everything in The Last of Us in that one episode.
I agree.
And that's
my
what makes
favorite
it
episode too. What's your least favorite episode?
Least favorite. That's a hard one, man.
I do like it, but mine's probably the mall episode.
The mall with
Yeah, with Ellie and her.
Left
Just-
Behind DLC or
yeah.
whatever.
That's probably my least favorite.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Hard hitting questions.
I'm trying to
It was
think
a good
about what
episode, though.
happened in every single episode, to be honest.
First one is good because of the setup. I mean, you
Yeah,
just
second
need
one
it.
had that dope like clicker interaction up in like the museum area and everything and test
Third
diet.
one. Third one's
one's
heartbreaking.
Bill and Frank.
Heartbreaking.
Maybe episode 4, possibly, because that's the only
That's-
one I can't remember like the most. Because that's the one where they do go to the city and
And they crash in, and then
yeah, they have to
Ellie
kill
saves
some of
them.
those fireflies and everything. I would
Yeah.
probably say that one, even though, and that I'm not dissing the episode. Every episode
No,
in
no.
the series has been fantastic.
Yeah.
That's probably my least favorite is like episode 4, because that's really the one I can't remember the most about like what happened as far as everything in the episode.
Yeah. Nah. Yeah, I get that. I like that one because that's when Rosie shoots. I only know her as Rose. I know that's not her name, but she shoots her
Rose,
doctor.
yeah.
She's just like, wow.
Yeah, and that little clicker kid crawling through the back seat after Ellie and stuff. There was a lot of
Yeah.
cool stuff in that episode, and you had like Joel sniping for
Mhm.
them as they're trying to get back to that house. A lot of cool
It's
stuff,
like
man.
a crazy. It's like an action scene, a good video game action scene. It makes it good, you know.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
well,
they found a
crazy.
way to translate some of those video game type moments into the show. Like we mentioned, like the museum part in episode
They just
2. It's just like the
slow mo.
game, sneaking around, you try not to step on glass, avoiding the
Yeah,
clickers.
he didn't throw a bottle to distract Clicker one time. Come on,
Right.
come on.
You could have did
This
that.
is
You could have had that. Right.
this is easy shit.
It's elementary, man. Come
Yeah,
on.
they don't have like. I feel like you get your writer crew together. You just have like 3 or 4 fucking weebs like us in there who just played the video game. We're like, come on, these are the things we need in this. You know, you gotta have the giraffe scene. You gotta throw a bottle. I really wanted the subway scene.
You did. I mean, I feel like they should have added that subway scene in
That
there.
subway
That would have
scene's
been
great.
awesome.
There's like fucking 30 clickers and they're sneaking through. Like it's a great scene.
Yeah, you should have had that. Come on now. Maybe
Come
that's
on.
something that they can kind of do, and when they do have more money with like a season 2 or something, maybe that's something they could add into like a season 2. Maybe not the subway specifically, but like an area like that.
An area like that. I thought they were gonna do it in our favorite episode with, and I thought they were just gonna add
They
Henry
go
and
into
the
the
kid,
tunnels, yeah.
and I was like, oh, they'll just add them to the mix too, which is fine. It's cool if they shift it, but man, that was a good set piece.
I agree.
And I wanted the fridge scene where he's and I get
Hanging
it because how
upside
they
down.
changed, yeah, how they changed Bill's story in it, but I wanted the fridge scene. That would have been a cool scene too.
Yeah, where he has to like shoot off the infected while they're trying to get him
And
down.
yeah, she's cutting him down. Yeah, that would have been a cool scene
That
too.
would have been
Again,
tense. Yeah.
we needed some more action scenes. I think that's my biggest complaint with this show is we just need a little bit more clickers and action scenes.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. But what they did as far
Great.
as what they needed for with The Last of Us, as far as developing Joel and Ellie as characters and their bond, I think they did fantastically. I feel like they paced that relationship perfectly for as many episodes as they had.
Absolutely. Just one more episode would have made it great for me.
I
But
think so as well. That would have definitely raised it up to like a 9 or possibly a 10. Who knows?
yeah, possibly.
But yeah, man, that's our thoughts on The Last of Us season finale and the season as a whole, pretty much. We might be a while until we get back into the TV game a little bit. It's kind of exhausting every week. You have to watch the episode and then try to pan out a day to do this and everything. It's a little easier week by week where you just watch a movie and sit
Yeah.
down and then you can record it at any time and edit it and stuff. TV, you got to be on it weekly
You're on a
because
schedule.
yeah, you're gonna miss the pop for that episode or the views for that episode. You know how it is, content creation, everything. It's you got to be there at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
But yeah, where can everybody find you here, Alex?
You can find me as always on Tap That. I will get back to it eventually. Getting married, so I am not putting out content like at all, but hopefully I'll get back there soon.
Yeah, man, cannot wait for the wedding too.
Thank you.
Everybody, make sure to like, share, and subscribe here. We are going to be getting right back into movies going forward next week. In fact, we are celebrating the 20th anniversary of Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill. I am very excited to dive into this because, I mean, I'm a huge Quentin Tarantino fan. I know you are as well. So, I mean, and Kill Bill is one of my favorite QT movies. So,
Yeah.
to celebrate
It's
20
up
years
there.
of Kill Bill, it's going to be a good episode. So, tune in next week for that. Like I said, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Go check us out on Twitter and Instagram at Cinema Trip Reviews. And also go check us out wherever you get your podcasts. We're pretty much available everywhere. Drop in and leave us a good review there. And we'll see everybody next week.